All right, everyone. Hopefully, you have a little bit of sunshine or maybe a little bit more of sunshine where you are. It definitely is nice and sunny here in Colorado today, 63 degrees. Very nice weather, but I hear we're in maybe Friday for some sort of a storm, so we'll see how that goes. That's March in Colorado for you. So happy you could be here with us. My name is Maya, and I've been with Silk and Sonder for several years now doing these, and love to see folks joining us here. Giving themselves a little bit of me time, a little bit of we time, right? Us together. And so happy that you carved that time out to be here. Is there anybody who this is like their first social, first time here? Maybe this is your first month with Silk and Sonder. You can just kind of put a little yes or me in the chat. I'm new. We love to welcome new folks who are joining the family, and obviously welcoming those folks back. Brittany's saying it's first month back in a little over 2 years. So yay. So happy that you're back, Brittany. Love that we have such a lovely mix of folks. I will give you just a little bit of logistical advice here. Make sure that you set your chat to everyone. That's that little blue box down in the corner. If you don't, it has a really obnoxious tendency to switch back to host and panelist. And when it does that, the only people that will see what you type are myself and my fabulous co-host, Jennifer O, coming to you from Texas. She might pop on and give a little wave. She's helping me in the chat, helping keep an eye on things, make sure everything's going okay there in the chat. So there she is, giving a little wave. Hey, Jennifer. So you can let her know if you have any questions or need anything. I try to keep an eye on the chat, but sometimes it does get rolling kind of fast. Usually we have around 100-ish folks here, so sometimes it does get rolling. And with some of the latest Zoom updates, it's kind of obnoxious because I can't freeze it and go scroll up and down. It just kind of keeps scrolling. So just know that the chat can be your friend, and you are welcome to hang out in the chat and share things in the chat. And we would love for you to share some things in the chat. But if it's stressful, like I know sometimes that's stressful to kind of see this thing, kind of scrolling and getting a little bit, don't worry about it, right? Like you can focus on your journal. Check out the chat every once in a while if you need to. This is your time. This is your time with your journal. Obviously, we're here to guide you through some different areas, some different prompts, some different things in the journal, but this is totally your time. If you are just here because you wanted to make sure you had something on the schedule and you actually want to work on a different page, or you just want to work on maybe some freeform journaling, you can totally do that too, right? Again, this is your time. There's no right or wrong way to spend your time here with us. And sometimes it helps, I think, when you tell people, you know what, this is my hour set aside for me, so go away, right? Family and all of that. So totally understand. And again, if you want to focus on the chat and kind of see what folks are saying and you're not so much going to be working in the journal, again, up to you. This is your time. So just a few community guidelines. We want to make sure that this is a safe and supportive space for everyone. So we just ask that you're kind and courteous to both yourself and others. No promotions or spam in the chat. We respect everyone's privacy. If you happen to know someone here in real life, we don't kind of bring what we see in the chat out into real life, kind of thing, right? What happens in the social stays in the socials or stays in Sonder Club, right? No hate speech or bullying. We limit those repetitive product and accessory questions. It's fine to ask about, pins that don't bleed through or stickers or those kinds of things. But the best place to ask those questions is in our Sonder Club app, because then people can post links and post pictures. That's another thing I will mention. Sometimes the links that get posted into the chat are not clickable, depending on which version of Zoom you have and what kind of operating system you're using. So screenshots will be your friend. If you ever need to remember a slide or remember something that's happening in a chat, just do a screenshot so that you can keep that. All of these socials are recorded and they will be posted on our YouTube link, but the chat is not there. So just keep that in mind. The chat doesn't come with the recordings, which we all think that's kind of where the magic happens, where everybody's kind of sharing what's happening and what's going on. But the recordings are there if you want to kind of go back later to maybe work on some sections. And then any of those customer care inquiries. So need to change an address, need to update your credit card on file, need to change your subscription up from maybe you want to change from a monthly billing to a yearly billing, which a lot of times will save you a chunk of money if you can pay for it all up front. All of those go to hello@silkandsonder.com. Jen and I do not have access to your account, so we can't check anything or fix anything, like if you haven't got a journal or any of those kinds of things. So just send them an email. Just know that they are Pacific time, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 operation. So sometimes it can take a little bit to get back to you, but just be patient. And if they haven't answered your email in, I would say probably within 24 to 48 hours, send another email, right? And check in. Sometimes things have a tendency to, how email is, get caught in spam filters. That's the other thing I want to remind you of too. Make sure you check your spam filters for any emails from us. Also, if you have Gmail, sometimes it goes into promotions. And so you don't see them in there. So just make sure that you've got those set up in your email so that you can get the emails, and it will come from the hello@silkandsonder.com email address. And then ultimately, remember, these socials are a tool to help elevate your emotional health through the power of community. And we have such a beautiful community, so many supportive and lovely people here, but ultimately you're responsible for your own emotions, well-being, and decisions. So if there's ever a section we're working on that just kind of isn't your jam, you're like, I don't really want to fill this out, like this isn't speaking to me, that's okay, right? No worries at all. You can work on something else. You can work on the coloring page. You can work on, setting up for next week, kind of whatever works for you. If the music I play isn't your jam, you can always mute that. If my voice isn't your jam, you can always mute me. We have the closed captioning on, so you can kind of see what's happening. So again, you do you. This is your hour to spend with us. And we're so, so glad that you are choosing to spend some of your time with us. So this month's theme is vitality. And I love this quote here that says, vitality shows in not only the ability to persist, but the ability to start over. And I think that is so important. Sometimes we think, oh, well, I didn't persist through this, or I didn't push through this, or I didn't make it through this. Or I see a lot of people saying, I haven't even picked up my journal this month. I never even did my monthly habit wheel. I haven't filled out my mood tracker. I haven't done anything, like, oh, I'm so behind, right? No, you're not behind, right? Our ability to start over. Start right now where you are. No pressure. We are not going to come to your house and check your journal. There's no grading. I promise Jennifer and I are not going to come by and give you demerits for not filling something out, right? This really is, your journal should never be a source of stress. Your journal should never be one more thing to kind of feel like a pile on. So start over, right? You're like, okay, I haven't done anything in my journal so far this month. That's okay. I'm just going to start over. I'm going to start right now. I'm going to start where I am, give myself some grace, and just go on from here, right? And same thing with anything in Sonder Club. If you haven't been listening to the daily rituals, you don't have to go back and listen to all of them, right? You can if you want to, but gosh, just start where you are, right? So don't make it, again, that other thing. Don't make it a to-do. Make it a, like, I get to do. This is so fun. I'm going to start over. I'm going to start right now. And that's going to show that vitality, right? And yes, Andrea, giving ourselves grace is very hard. Believe me, it's very easy for me to tell you that. But I have to tell myself that often as well, because I have a tendency to be like, well, do as I say, not as I do. But it's all a work in progress, right? We are all beautiful works of art in progress. And so I just like to keep reminding you of the idea of giving yourself grace and going from where you are. So our agenda for tonight, we're going to do a little musical opening activity. I do like to do these each month because it's kind of fun to think of songs. And then we're going to do our Vitality Journal prompt, which is on page 14 in our journal. And then we're going to work on the My Favorites page on page 19. And I will say this month's My Favorites go a little deeper than they have sometimes in the past. So we're going to have to dig a little bit to get into some of those favorites, but I think that'll be okay. I think you're up for it. So for that opening activity, I want you to find a blank notes page, maybe a scratch pad, sticky notes, a thoughts journal if you have that, kind of whatever, or you can just excuse me, type this into the chat. So we're going to make every month we make a little playlist that evokes the feelings of the theme of the month. And again, this month's theme is vitality, which is, I got to say, not a word I use a lot. I'll be honest, this month is probably the first time I've used this word so often. Because it's interesting. It's kind of an interesting word to kind of dig into. So we're going to choose some songs maybe that make us smile or dance, feeling good, thinking about that feeling of vitality. So if you've had a chance to really kind of think of what vitality means to you, what feelings do you associate with it? What does it look like? What songs make you feel that sense of vitality? Maybe they make you feel energized or happy or dancing, or, like a lot of you liked the song in the beginning, which was Sunshine by One Republic. I think that's kind of a fun song that has a lot of vitality vibes to it, but don't overthink it, right? So maybe think about feelings you want the playlist to invoke. Maybe you want it to be dancing. I see folks are already kind of putting some songs in here, and I will tell you, after the social, what I do is I'm able to access the chat, so I can get in there and I can get all those songs, and I will make a little Spotify playlist, and I will put that link into Sonder Club so that you can access all these super, super fun songs that folks are saying. I already see some, trying to see, I've got Walking on Sunshine, right? I feel like anything with sunshine probably is a good vitality. Oh, Born to Be Alive, Tammy, that is a great one. Woman by Kesha. Yeah, so Brittany says it's a little explicit, and I will say I tried to find the radio version of songs to put on the playlist, but if I ever miss that, I apologize, because I know some people are not a fan of the colorful language there that sometimes happens in songs. I'm Alive by Celine. What else do I see in here? Don't Stop Me Now by Queen. That is definitely a good one. Dance with Somebody. Oh, yes, I love that one. Um, let's see, what else do I see? Born to Run, Black Eyed Peas, Happy, Okay, Fantasy, Push to Start. So these are great. So keep these coming. I'm going to play some music that doesn't have words, so hopefully it doesn't interfere with your thoughts of music. And this actually, we went to see the symphony, and it was this last weekend, and it was some Aaron Copland. It wasn't the Appalachian Spring that I'm going to play for you now, but love to hear some Copland. I always think this song definitely speaks of vitality to me because it makes me think of spring. So keep popping those songs in the chat. We'll play a little bit of music and then we'll check right back in. Oh my goodness, so many amazing songs popping up there in the chat. Oh, Barracuda, I was just talking about that song the other day. Super fun. The Love You Save, Twisting the Night Away, probably anything on like the Wicked soundtrack or the Greatest Showman soundtrack, or thinking of those musicals and all of those just amazing songs that really make us again, that idea of feeling alive, right? Feeling joy, just really feeling that idea of vitality, which I think is perfect when we've got spring right around the corner next week. So super, super exciting. So I would keep an eye out in Sonder Club for the link to that Spotify playlist. I will make that later on this evening. So thank you all for participating there with your song ideas. And you can keep putting them in there, right, if you want, no worries. But we're going to right now turn over to page 14 in your journal. And so this is our Vitality Journal prompt. Excuse me. And we've got two boxes, and we're going to tackle this one at a time. So we're going to focus on this first box first, where we're going to identify 3 barriers to vitality in your life. We're going to think about the habits, mindsets, or external factors that drain your energy and your vitality. And then we'll work on the second section. So we'll work on this first box. I'll give you some ideas and some thoughts here. Then we'll play some music and let you work on that. And you can put things in the chat. And then we'll come back. I'll give you some more thoughts and ideas on the second box. So just know that's how we're going to kind of do both of these separately to give you plenty of time to think, because these are deep. These are some pretty deep, deep thinking here. So when we think about those 3 barriers, some questions that we want to ask ourselves, right? So do you experience consistent fatigue, or do you have some periods of sustained energy? What are some things, how does that energy feel in your life right now? Think about those prevailing moods, those moods that are coming up most often. Are you often anxious or stressed or unmotivated? This is a great place to tie in the mood tracker, right? To pull that mood tracker in and take a look. Maybe you want to assess your ability to focus and concentrate. Do you experience kind of that mental fog, or maybe difficulty in making decisions? How strong are your relationships? Do you feel supported and connected to others? Do you feel like you are growing as a person? So these are some questions to think about and ask yourself as you're thinking of these barriers. And yeah, I know that this was probably something that was in, oh, Brenda's saying you guys did these with Malika last week. Oh dear. Well, I apologize for that if you've already done it. So maybe we can think a little bit differently this time if you've already done these. It should be on page 14, I believe. So anyway, so we'll just keep going, and then maybe identify those 3 barriers to vitality in your life. So things like physical well-being, mental and emotional health, and lifestyle and habits. So some different things to kind of think about. Were we supposed to do page 15 tonight? Oh goodness, I hope I didn't mess this up. I apologize if I messed up. So if I did, I'll talk about page 15 too if you've already done page 14, I promise. Great. And so Sharon's saying, I don't mind a second look at this. So excellent. I apologize if I goofed this up here. So thinking about physical well-being. So thinking about things like a lack of sleep, maybe poor eating habits, a lack of physical activity, maybe there's some underlying health conditions, some chronic stress. So these can all be some barriers. Maybe it's some excessive worry or rumination. Maybe it's negative self-talk. I know there's a gal that I listened to, Tanya Lee, in School of Self-Image, that talks about going to the thought store and picking our thoughts. And when we pick these negative self-talk thoughts, we're kind of like picking these yucky thoughts, right? And it's kind of like, why are we going to the yucky thought store? Let's go to the better thought store, right? But maybe that negative self-talk is something that is really kind of something that's that barrier to vitality, right? Maybe it's lack of connection. Maybe it's too much technology, right? Maybe there's some doom scrolling going on. So goodness knows that can definitely happen. Or maybe you're like me and you like to overcommit to things. You agree to do things because you want to do it all, and then you realize you've overcommitted. procrastination. Often say I'm the princess of procrastination. Maybe it's a lack of balance between our work and our personal life. Maybe it's lack of hobbies, or maybe we haven't been doing our hobbies. Maybe there's some sort of barrier there. Maybe it's a fear of trying new things or toxic relationships. Maybe it's not continuing to learn, having that fixed mindset. Or maybe it's no consistent habits. Great place here to kind of think about that habit tracker and weekly habits and activities. If you haven't been working on that consistent habits, maybe want to take a look at that habit tracker. If you haven't been doing the habit tracker, maybe that's something that you want to kind of pull in. So, oops, I just went too far. So what I want you to do, and I know, I promise we're going to get more into the reflecting, but I hate to, sometimes when we start out with identifying the barriers, we can get kind of stuck in that spiral. So just know that we're not going to stay there. We're going to spend a few minutes. We're going to think of the barriers. We're going to identify the barriers, and then we're going to talk about what we can do about breaking down those barriers, right? Okay, so I'm going to play a little bit of music and let you think about this. And again, this is kind of a meaty question to think about, the barriers to vitality in your life, right? And thinking about those habits and mindsets and external factors, right? So think about that. Please feel free to share in the chat, play some music, and then we'll check back in and we'll talk about how to remove those barriers. All right. So thank you for taking a look at those barriers, especially if you already did look at the barriers again last week. I'd be interested if anybody thought of any different ones. If you did this last week, if you thought of anything different, or if you see it any differently. And Desi, so the thought store, the idea with the thought store is think about our thoughts as what if there was a store that we went into and there all these thoughts were on the shelf, right? Like I'm amazing, I'm brilliant, I'm this, or the negative self-talk things on the shelf at the thought store are I'm not enough, I'm not worthy, I don't deserve this, I messed up, um, everybody's mad at me, right? Those kinds of things. And if you think about it, like, why would we go into a store and buy yucky things? Why would we go into a store and buy things that made us feel bad? Why would we go in there and pick the thing that hurt our hearts, right? We can take that thought, that yucky thought, put it right on back on the shelf and pick up the thought that makes us happy, right? That idea of picking up that thought of, I am enough. And you know what? I made a mistake, but that's okay, right? People make mistakes. That's part of the learning process. So that's that whole idea of the thought store. So I'm always like, don't go to the yucky thought store and pick out the yucky thoughts, or don't go to the bargain shelf with kind of the funky thoughts. Let's make sure we can get the most beautiful, vital, help us feel that sense of vitality thoughts that we can pick, right? So um so now we've kind of identified those barriers and we've kind of thought of these different things. We're going to go down and we're going to reflect on the potential positive changes in our lives that we could have if we removed those barriers. And sometimes, yeah, Sharon likes the bargain shelf, right? I don't want the thoughts on the bargain shelf. I want the top of the line, brand new, shiny, beautiful thoughts. So if we could change these barriers, if we could move them, if we could pick at them, we could maybe we chisel away at them. Maybe we can't remove them immediately, but like what would that look like, right? And so one of the ways you could think about this, and you could write this here, is if I didn't have to do, or if I didn't have X, then I could have or do, oops, I put that in there twice, Y, right? So it's this idea. Here's some examples, right? So if I made sure I went to bed early and I got 7 to 8 hours of sleep, then I could wake up feeling refreshed and energized, ready to tackle the day. Okay, so what's the barrier? Maybe I'm doing that. What's it called? I know Jennifer knows it. Revenge bedtime, where you stay up late even though you know you shouldn't because you feel like that's the only time you have alone time. Yeah, Jen O knows the revenge bedtime, right? So think about that, right? That what would happen if I didn't engage in the revenge bedtime practice? What if I said, you know what, revenge bedtime, that is not helping me. I think it's helping me just because I'm like, I'm this is my me time, this is my staying up time. But what if I said, okay, instead of revenge bedtime, I'm going to have refreshing bedtime, and I'm going to have set up a nice little ritual um, to maybe get me ready for bed. I'm going to have a nice cup of chamomile tea or some hot cocoa, or I like to do the mushroom cocoa, which is kind of like a sleepy time recipe, which is lovely. I put a little cream in there and heat that up, and it's doesn't have any sugar in it, or if it does, it has very little, but it's kind of gives me that little chocolatey thing. And I can maybe then put on some snuggly pajamas, and I can turn off all my devices, put my phone into airplane mode, or just turn it off or put it somewhere else. And then give myself that time to really maybe reflect. Maybe that's when I work on my Silk and Sonder journal. Maybe that's when I um give myself, I do some stretching, I do some chair yoga or something like that. I make myself have that time, and then I go to bed earlier, and so I can wake up and feel refreshed, and I remove that barrier. Or really kind of digging in deep and saying, why do I do this, right? What am I getting out of this? How is this helping me, right? Because really, if you think about it, we do these things because somehow they are helping us, or we think they are helping us, or they used to help us but they don't help us anymore, but we haven't figured that out yet. Here's another example. Maybe if I established healthy boundaries and prioritized my well-being, I could have a better work-life balance and not feel burnt out, so I could enjoy fun activities. So how many of us are, oh my gosh, I just have to get this one more project done. I just have to send one more email. I need to check my email. I need to do this one more report. I know I'm going overtime. I should have left the office at 5. Andrew's saying me, right? Like I should have left the office at 5, but I just want to get this done. And here's the thing, right? Unless you're a doctor, um, who's saying like, oh, I'm not going to do that surgery, right? I'm just going to go home kind of thing, right? It's probably whatever we have will be there for us when we get there in the morning. So really setting those boundaries of I will go home at my end time, my 5 p.m. time or whatever. And if you work from home, it can be even worse. So I've read some things about you establish the healthy boundary of you say to yourself, like, okay, I'm wrapping up, all done, close out my windows, close my laptop, and I'm done with work. Right. And you literally say that out loud, right? Done with work. And now I'm going to go and do something else to really kind of think about um, how you can set those boundaries, right? So, again, what are our barriers and how can we set up those different ways to remove those barriers? And you know what? It's not going to be all at once. It's not like you're like, here's my whole list of barriers, and now instantly snap my fingers and I don't do revenge bedtime anymore, and I don't doom scroll, and I don't like it. It is hard to break those habits sometimes, but recognizing them and writing them down and really thinking about them. Um, and sometimes it takes some sitting, some quiet sitting with them and being like, why do I do this? Why do I procrastinate? Sometimes it's because it's a task I don't really want to do, or maybe it's a task that I feel like I'm not being recognized for, or I feel like maybe it's somebody else's task. So I keep pushing it off and pushing it off. How would I feel if I actually just did it and then didn't have to work on it later? Yeah, I love that, Andrea. Yep, it will be there tomorrow. It literally will be there waiting for you. And if it's dirty dishes, um, and it's, bedtime, and yes, I know sometimes we're like, we want to clean up before bedtime, but you know what? Bedtime has hit. There's still some dirty dishes. You know what? They will be there for you tomorrow. I know it's not fun, but you can do those tomorrow morning. And then we can think the next night, okay, I went to bed with dirty dishes and I didn't really like how that felt when I woke up. So, what can I do to make sure these dishes are done? And sometimes it's just a matter of saying eating dinner encompasses doing the dishes, right? That's a whole process. The cooking, the putting it on the table, the eating, and then the cleanup is all one thing. Like it's not separate things for me to do later. Yes. And Sarah, building better habits is hard. And oh my gosh, how easy is it to slip back into the bad habit again, right? It is just it is a struggle. The struggle is real, but I know that you all are here and you're going to be working on that. So you're definitely going to work to make that stronger. So close your eyes maybe for a minute and just imagine what your life would look like if those barriers were gone. What would it look like if you were able to wake up in the morning and you actually felt refreshed because you didn't stay up until 11 o'clock or midnight and then have to get up early? What would that look like? So you could use this space just to write down what would that look like. Cara's asking any tips for getting out of a bad habit. I think the first thing is to help yourself recognize, why do I do the bad habit? Right. And one of the things about doom scrolling, or even if it's not doom scrolling, even if it's just watching funny videos, on Instagram, it's a dopamine hit. Like your brain literally, they have done studies, and your brain literally, you get a little bit of dopamine every time you see a new thing or you see a message or you see a new video, and you keep scrolling and you keep scrolling. So literally, what I have done is I set my phone to grayscale at a certain time, right? So that it's not attractive anymore. And it really isn't. When you set your phone to grayscale, those Instagram videos are not nearly as fun anymore. And I have a timer. So for those social media apps, they will only let me have 10 minutes a day or whatever I set that to, and then it literally will shut off. Now, granted, I could go in and turn it back on, but for some reason that is enough to stop me from doing that. Right. And so just kind of thinking about that, but sometimes it does take like, okay, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? So write down those thoughts and feelings about those potential positive changes. Maybe think of some positive affirmations that might reinforce that vision of a more vital life. And then think of the small steps that lead to the removal of the barriers. So I love, somebody had mentioned, I replace it with a better habit, right? Because sometimes when we say things like, okay, I'm not going to eat after I have dinner at 6 p.m., I'm not going to have anything to eat. But we've gotten in that habit of kind of rooting around in the fridge or in the cupboard for some snacks or whatever. Like, okay, so if I have this, 9 p.m. rooting around for snacks, like what am I looking for? Maybe I'm just tired. Maybe a nice big glass of water and listening to some nice music, and maybe doing a little 1 minute meditation, or maybe I have the Calm app, or I could listen to some rain on Spotify or something like that. See if you can replace the habit you want to get rid of with a new habit that is going to help you with that, having that vital lifestyle, right? And so if you can think of some of those small steps that will lead to the removal of those barriers, write those down. Maybe it's in your to-do space in the weekly setup page. Maybe it's in your daily spaces, where each day has the number and the one thing at the top. Maybe your one thing box could be the one thing that you're going to do differently, to help you kind of remove the barrier. So the first thing to do is identify the barrier. And here's the thing. If you identified 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or however many barriers, you're not going to remove them all in 1 week. Like that's asking too much, right? Our brains are like, too much change, alert, alert, right? Go back to how it was. So pick one of those barriers that you want to tackle. It could be maybe one that might seem a little bit easier, or maybe somebody could help you with, right? So like I'll tell my husband, I'll be like, can you remind me at 8 o'clock to put down my phone? Or can you remind me at 8 o'clock that I need to make sure that the kitchen's cleaned up so that it will be good in the morning, right? Or ask your kiddos, or put a reminder on your phone, a little alarm on your phone that's like, bing, dishes done, or, bing, put the clothes away, or whatever, so that you can do that. And then just literally focus on that one change all week long. I know it's not like fun and sexy because you want to like everything all at once, because that's how we are. We want that instant gratification, right? But think of it this way. In 5 years, if I was able to change this one thing, what would be different in my life? Right? How would things look differently? If I said I'm going to stop doom scrolling, or I'm going to stop using my phone after 8 p.m., right? And I do that, right, pretty consistently. Every once in a while there's a little slip. Maybe if I'm on vacation or something, I might use it, but pretty much most days, like 5 out of 7 days, 6 out of 7 days, 7 out of 7 days, right? It kind of changes. If I was able to do that for 5 years, how much time could I get back? Right? If I'm scrolling for an hour or 2 hours a night and I stopped doing that, what else could I do? I could write a letter to someone. I could call a loved one. I could read a book. I could watch a show I've been meaning to watch. I could learn how to knit. I could learn how to crochet. I could do a puzzle. Right? Like let yourself think of that and really think about what those steps could be to work on that. Okay. So I'll play a little bit of music because I know I've been chitty chatty here. And I'll let you kind of work on what that's going to look like. I'll scroll through, these 2 slides so you can take a look. Please feel free to continue sharing in the chat, and then we'll check back in here and keep moving on. Okay, so hopefully you thought of some things that you can kind of mix up, things that you can change here. And again, I know, and some folks are kind of, if we've been doing this bad habit for a really long time, this is not going to instantly fix itself overnight, right? It's just not, because that's not how humans are wired. And our brain will always take the path of least resistance, which is after dinner, I'm just going to flop on the couch and, scroll through Netflix and, watch whatever. So it takes, you have to push. And I love Mel Robbins. If you ever listen to her, she does the 5 4 3 2 1 go. So if you catch yourself doing that, right, you're like, I eat dinner, and then you do your default of go to the couch and turn on Netflix. You have to tell yourself, all right, I'm going to turn off the TV, I'm going to get up, and I'm going to go for a walk wherever, and it'll be like, okay, 5 4 3 2 1 go, done. And just go. And you'd be surprised um how that can really help. Like it makes your brain kind of think to do that, right? And so even if it sounds silly, and to do a little countdown before you do it, or maybe you just want to do 3 2 1 go, right? You just want to don't let yourself sit there and think about it. Because how often do you sit there on the phone, you're like, I really should stop looking at the phone, I really should stop looking at the phone. If you're like, I will put the phone down, and 3 2 1, put it down, right? And it will take practice, and you will get better with practice. So don't, again, give yourself grace. You're trying to change things about you that maybe, depending on how long you've been doing them, is not going to be a quick and easy thing, but I know that you can. And I would love to hear, if you want to share in Sonder Club, like what thing you're going to work on, what barrier you're going to work on for the rest of this week, or maybe the rest of this month, and what little steps you're going to put in place. So now that you've thought about that, I think my favorites actually ties in kind of nicely to this, because some of them kind of go hand in hand. But this is over on page 19. And I will be honest, I was talking to Jennifer, and I said, these feel a little deeper of my favorites than sometimes. I mean, we have favorites like my favorite holiday, my favorite thing to drink, my favorite type of food, right? So kind of more of the quick, easy kinds of things. These are a little more meaty, right? These kind of help us dig in a little bit. So look at some of these things, right? And here's the other tip. If you say, I don't have a favorite, whatever, that's okay. Maybe you think, instead of my favorite self-care ritual, maybe it's my favorite new self-care ritual I'm going to try, right? So maybe it's something that you're going to try. Yeah. And Sharon says, I have such a hard time with the favorites page. So let's see what we can do with some of these. So the first one is my favorite self-care ritual. And I thought about, the idea of lighting a candle and having a warm cup of tea. Do I do it a lot? No. So maybe that's something I need to do, right? Because I really do enjoy having a really nice smelling candle, especially with these self-care rituals, if I can kind of hit the five senses. So I have a lovely candle, kind of turn down the lights. So I've got the smell, I've got kind of soft lighting. I have a warm cup of tea, something really nice. And can kind of do it that way. My favorite inspirational book. So I would love to know what folks think. I was telling Jennifer, sometimes it's like, well, it's whatever book I'm reading right now. But think about maybe a favorite inspirational book, or maybe it's a favorite or inspirational book that you want to read, or that you've heard good things about. Yeah, Andrea is saying talking to Jenny. So I'm going to assume that's our little Sonder coach that you have there, the 24/7. I love that. My favorite mindfulness practice. So sometimes that's just me saying, I'm going to sit here, and I'm going to be right here, right now. I'm not going to think about the future. I'm not going to think about the past. I'm just going to think about what I'm doing right now. My favorite achievement. So something you did, it could be something big, it could be something small. Maybe your favorite achievement was getting out of bed this morning. That's totally okay, right? My favorite positive affirmation, and I'm going to give you a nice list of affirmations if you want some of those. My favorite way to give back. My favorite personal growth goal. And maybe your favorite personal growth goal is going to be getting rid of some of these barriers that you identified. My favorite motivational quote. My favorite way to express gratitude. And my favorite habit that brings me joy. And if your favorite habit that brings you joy is something you haven't done for a while, that's a big clue that maybe you want to maybe dig into that, right? Maybe you want to put that on your list. Maybe that's something that you can pick up and do. So I also want to give you a plethora of affirmations, because I know sometimes those are the kind of thinking of those positive affirmations. I have lots of fun ones. I like the one, my body deserves care and attention. I think that's kind of a fun one. Sometimes I think like when we're stressed, we tend to maybe not eat well or not drink our water. And I think like my body deserves for me to care and attend to it, right? So that I can feel vital. Even if I'm stressed, I need to make sure I'm drinking my water. I need to eat some vegetables. I need to put down the Girl Scout cookies that people keep bringing into work, right? And thinking of it that way. So I'll leave those up there so that you can kind of take a look and see those. I love Amanda's is I am enough just as I am. So I love that. So feel free to put any of your favorites into the chat. I will play plenty of music so you can keep working on that. I love someone else said that they had already done page 14, but now they kind of did it in a different way. And I love, that's the nice thing about these journal prompts, right? We can do it one way, one time, and then we can always come back to it. And we've had some time to think about it. And maybe we have some different perspectives that we can bring. So think about those favorites. I would love to see if anybody has any fun inspirational books. Not that I need more books to read, but I love to see other people's suggestions for books. So feel free to share in the chat, and then we'll come back and see how things are going. All right. Well, thank you all so much for sharing in the chat. I was trying to read through. There's like some all sorts of really great book ideas, and we definitely need to throw Joanna a party for leaving a toxic, abusive marriage of 23 years. That is so hard and takes so much strength, and that is an amazing achievement. And we are all so proud of you, Joanna, and hope that you are feeling much better and having that vital sense of life and just feeling so much better as you go forward. And thank you all so much for sharing. I just love um, the just so inspirational, and the Sonder fam. We have gone through so many tough things together, and it just shows that we can do hard things and we can move through. So thank you all so much for sharing that in the chat. I love seeing that. And if you feel comfortable doing so, take a picture of that page and share that in Sonder Club. I know people love to see what other folks write, and I know, like I saw in the chat, some people were saying, like, I always have a hard time with this. Right? It's hard sometimes to kind of think of these things. And like I said, these were deeper. These were a little bit deeper favorites than they maybe have been in the past. So kudos to you all for looking at these and really digging in and finding these. And this would be a nice thing to maybe take a picture of and save somewhere, right? So you can kind of pull that out and take a look. So thank you all so much for joining us. And believe it or not, I don't know how the time always, that's the fastest hour. I don't know how hours can go by so fast in these socials, but they do. So we are so glad that you joined us here tonight. So again, thank you all. Jen is going to put some links in the chat to the YouTube channel. And I think I need to check in with them because I think they might be putting some of the newer ones in a different under a different link. But if you go, you can look at the link that Jen puts in, but you can also go just to the Silk and Sonder YouTube page, because sometimes I think some of them are going in there. We have lots more socials coming up. We will dig into page 15. I think that's next week that we will take a look at it. She will also put in some of the links to our 24/7 personalized life coach that a lot of you mentioned that you love using. Jenny, our little AI coach that is really good about, you can take a picture even of your journal page and ask her, like, how should I fill this out based on what you know about me? So super cool idea as well. And yes, Jennifer is doing an exclusive event, I believe tomorrow, that will be looking at I love this, through the lens of symbolic trees from the 4 seasons. They're going to explore how seasons reflect the strength of women we admire. So that would definitely be fun. That is one of our exclusive events. So there is a small fee to attend that. But it is recorded also. So if you pay for that and you can't attend, you can always get a recording. So thank you all again so much. Oh yeah, and Brenda, I didn't even get a chance to talk about the in-person event. We did have a little in-person event here in Denver. We're definitely going to do more. I had 4 lovely ladies that we had such a good time, and that was an hour and a half, and it went so fast. I don't know, but we definitely are going to do more. Super, super fun to be able to meet in person and talk about our journals. And I know our other facilitators are looking to schedule some events as well. So again, thank you all for joining us. Have a fabulous rest of your week, and we hope to see you again soon.